of its own were not part of the march led by the Congress but were signatories to the letter. Interestingly, TMC and NCP also did not join forces with this march today. But with some show of strength, even if on separate issues and slightly differently, the opposition has managed to take the heat off Rahul Gandhi, who was being lambasted by the BJP for defaming India overseas and asking for foreign intervention. Many opposition parties have not really come to Rahul's defense. In fact, some have expressed the view that such statements criticizing Indian democracy should not be made in foreign land, but they are definitely on board in cornering the government on issues, even if those issues don't always match. The larger question also is, the proceedings in both houses of parliament were disrupted for a third straight day. Since the resumption of the budget session, the BJP has been demanding an apology from Rahul Gandhi for quote tarnishing India's image on foreign soil, and the opposition has been raising the JPC demand over the Adani Hindenburg report. In all of this politics, is it really necessary that parliament proceedings be stalled? We'll take those questions to our guests in just a bit. Let's take a quick look at the differences in the tactics and the issues that were writ large across opposition ranks today. So as I mentioned, 18 opposition parties, which include the Congress, DMK, Left, SP, JDU, RJD, what's left of the Uddhav faction, the Aam Aadmi Party, participated in the protest march today from Parliament to ED office. But very prominent regional players, the likes of Mamata Banerjee's TMC, Sharad Pawar's NCP and K. Chandrasekhar Rao's BRS were not part of this march. Let me break down some of these opposition optics a little bit more in detail. So after the opposition meet today, the parties decided to put up this show of strength. Congress with 16 other parties led this march. This after sending a letter to the ED2 demanding a probe in the Hindenburg report case. 18 parties were signatories to this letter, but the march was not attended by all of them. It was eventually stopped by the police at Vijay Chowk. Meanwhile, BRS MPs were absent from this march, although they were signatories to the letter to the ED, but they have always managed to keep themselves a little bit away from the grand old party. Remember, BRS has national ambitions of its own. Not to forget that they have traditionally been equally opposed to both the BJP and the Congress party. The Trinamool Congress distanced themselves from the opposition and even the demand on the Adani issue. They protested outside Parliament today against price hike and inflation. They've alleged that Congress and BJP are actually hand in gloves with each other in Bengal. TMC neither took part in the protest march, neither did they sign that letter to the ED director. The biggest shocker perhaps was the case of the NCP, allies of the Congress party in Maharashtra. They've always raised similar issues in the past. NCP MP Praful Patel in fact was part of the opposition meeting which took place in the morning, but the party skipped the march and they were not a signatory to the letter either on the Adani issue. Meanwhile, there was uproar in Parliament again today and sloganeering by opposition demanding this JPC. The BJP continues to demand an apology from Rahul Gandhi. Both houses were really adjourned without much business being conducted.
It is shameful that Rahul Gandhi, instead of coming to Parliament and apologizing for his undemocratic rant against India, the Congress party has been brought to political perish by the people of India for this very behavior that you exhibited against the nation state overseas.
वो राहुल गांधी ट्रोल मंत्रालय की प्रमुख मंत्री हैं और वही काम वो पूरी शिद्दत से, पूरी लगन से करती हैं। बहुत सारे लोगों में होड़ लगी हुई है कि राहुल गांधी जी को ज्यादा ट्रोल कौन कर पाएगा, कौन ज्यादा दो रुपल्ली का ट्रोल बनेगा इस सरकार के मंत्रियों में। उनको लगा कि अनुराग ठाकुर जी उनसे बाजी मार रहे हैं, तो मैडम ने आज फिर से कमान संभाल ली है।
The big debate that's coming up today, there is this JPC versus apology slugfest that is going on between the opposition versus the government. But is it truly necessary to stall Parliament for that? And is the government, the Treasury benches also now guilty of doing exactly what they have blamed the opposition for previous sessions?
इस मामले में एफआईआर दर्ज करके इन्वेस्टिगेशन शुरू करे। अडानी के खिलाफ कार्रवाई क्यों नहीं हो रही है?
सरकार हमको विजय चौक के पास भी नहीं जाने दे रही और रोक लिए है।
आवश्यक है कि हम नहीं, सबने देखा ये विजुअल प्रतीक है कि ये तानाशाही सरकार है। हम इन्हें झुकाएंगे, ये मार्च रुकेगा नहीं।
There in the West Bengal, Congress and BJP is together. Therefore, we are not.
सारे दुनिया के डायस्पोरा से हमको फोन आ रहे, भारत का अपमान कर रहा है इस सदन के एक नेता।
एक सदन का मेंबर जिस प्रकार से विदेश में जाके भारत के सदन का अपमान करता है, और अगर इनको कोई अपमान नहीं लगता है और ये इस प्रकार का व्यवहार करते हैं, तो मेरा मानना है कि जो तख्ती है इनको सस्पेंड किया जाए।
माननीय सदस्यगण,
Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. Neeti Jain from the BJP, Lavanya Balal from the Congress Party. I'm also joined by TKS Ilangovan, DMK spokesperson and former RS MP. Ravula Sridhar Reddy is from the BRS, and Karan Verma is author and analyst joining us also on the show. Let me start with our DMK representative today, Mr. Ilangovan. You know, even as the opposition parties like yourself came together with the Congress Party, the one thing that stood large is that even the opposition is not united as far as this JPC demand is concerned. Very prominent regional satraps, parties that are in power in some states are not on board as far as this march is concerned. What are we to make of this?
No, we are trying. See, there should be a united opposition to defeat this government. That is what our Mr. Stalin, our leader, Mr. Stalin, had also stated earlier. And time and again, he is talking about that, and he is trying to unite all parties against BJP. That is one strategy against electoral strategy which will defeat BJP. That is our aim, and we will work for it.
No,
so
this is something that sir, this is something that the opposition obviously ideally wants, and you've been working on it. We've seen statements from Mr. Stalin in the past too, but it's really not coming true, right? It's just 1 year to go before the next general elections. There seem to be very deep differences, even on the JPC demand, for example. The TMC says we are not concerned with the JPC. So is the rest of the opposition using this as a hook to corner the government when actually there's no need for a JPC here?
No, I understand that. We will talk with them also. See, JPC, asking for a JPC or not is a question relating to one subject. Whereas saving the country needs a strong unity among all opposition parties. So these two are two issues. The second issue on which to save the nation we are working, we will talk to all the parties.
Okay, Mr. Reddy of the BRS with us. They've also not really rubbed shoulders with the Congress and the DMK and others. And the very simple explanation to that, Mr. Reddy, is that your leaders, including the likes of Mamata Banerjee of the TMC, have their own national ambitions. So am I fair to say that you do not want to be seen in the stewardship of the Congress party as far as this opposition bloc is concerned?
No, we always have mentioned it very clearly. We maintain equal distance with Bharatiya Janata Party as well Congress. But today the issue is not, who is rubbing shoulders with Congress party or not. The bigger picture is, the larger picture is, why is central government, Modi government is scared of, forming a JPC? That is the issue. If somebody wants to show this as an opposition unity or divide with one aspect or two things, two issues that cannot be decided, that will be a issue which will be worked out on a later stage. But at this point in time, why Modi is going back on a discussion on Adani scam, why they are not forming the JPC?
Okay, but as far as the discussion is concerned, as far as the discussion on the Adani issue is concerned, the discussion did happen. Now, I can come to the JPC demand, but if you do want a discussion in Parliament, don't you think the responsibility is also with the opposition to let the Parliament function? How is the discussion supposed to happen?
No. If the government allows the discussion to happen, we have given many adjournment motions in the past also, in the last sessions also. The government has not accepted, not agreed to one adjournment motion. They have not allowed any discussion on Adani's scam, where Prime Minister is the main person behind Adani. That's what the entire country believes it. That is why they are scared of forming JPC, even for the Supreme Court Constitutional Committee, they wanted to give the names in sealed cover or something.
Okay.
They wanted to hide. They are escaping, they are avoiding the discussion. Today, the question is, you have to form a JPC and the facts to come out. This government is scared of, the issue, and they know things will come out because entire country is believing.
Okay, but there's a Supreme Court looking at it. There's a Supreme Court looking at it. The other concerned departments or government agencies are looking at it, or concerned agencies are looking at it, or institutions are looking at it. Why do you believe JPC is the appropriate forum? What is the JPC going to achieve?
Absolutely. JPC, see, whatever you are expecting other, regulators are, going to achieve, I think JPC will be doing better than that. JPC will be representation by all parties. They all will be there. A parliamentary committee will be there. I think the parliament is the decision-making body in this country, and we should have that respect, right?
Okay, but are you saying that parallelly, let me take that to Mr. Ilangovan also. Are you saying that parallelly, even as the Supreme Court is looking into this matter, a JPC is extremely important? So two separate institutions should be looking at it?
There is an earlier case of 2G, when the matter was taken to the Supreme Court. They formed a JPC, they investigated the case and then presented a report. See, it is the responsibility of the ruling party to the parliament. The house is not only for the ruling party, it is for the opposition parties also. We have a right to give any notice for discussion under rules of the procedure of the house. But that was not respected by the ruling party. They think that the parliament is only for the ruling party.
Okay.
Why not JPC when they had fixed JPC on two other issues earlier? Why not on this issue? This is also a major issue which concerns the people of this country. Why not they allow form JPC to go into it?
Okay, the BJP representative will respond to that, but before that, let me bring in Lavanya Balal of the Congress also. Some would also say that this whole thing that the Congress did today was primarily to take the heat of Rahul Gandhi, because the government and the treasury benches have been maintaining this heat for an apology on Rahul Gandhi. Today, when we were expecting that Rahul Gandhi will possibly come up and turn up to Parliament, because questions have been raised on why he's not in Parliament when he's so worried about Indian democracy and parliamentary proceedings, the Congress does this march. Was this all so that the questions over Rahul Gandhi, he escapes the heat?
Hi, good evening. When it comes to Adani's scam, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has raised this issue a month prior to this hullabulla that is being raised by the BJP today. And Mr. Gandhi's presence in the parliament is being questioned by the BJP. I think they should also provide the number of days of attendance of our Honorable Prime Minister in the parliament. You will see he's one of the leaders, MPs in the parliament who has the least amount of attendance for the parliamentary debates. And having said that, you were asking the previous speakers about why do we need a JPC when there is a Supreme Court investigation going on. So investigation has its limitations, and that is why the opposition is demanding a JPC. Now the question is, when we march to the ED today, why hasn't the ED not even started preliminary investigation into the Adani scam, despite this being the biggest corporate fraud in independent India? It is also about the amount of public debt from public sector banks, right? It affects every common man, the white crime, which affects every Indian. Why is there a hesitation to approve a JPC? See, a parliamentary discussion is a two-way street, like the previous speaker was saying. It is not a one-way street where somebody dictates and the rest of them listen. Now, parliamentary proceedings will proceed if, it is simple, if BJP agrees to have a JPC. It is as simple as that.
Okay, I think the Congress has made its point very clear.
Conditions, ma'am.
Yeah, can I just give Neeti a minute to respond, but respond on two things, Neeti. One, why don't you agree to a JPC? In fact, even the discussion on the Adani issue, most portions have been removed. That may be the prerogative of the speaker, but the government has been very hesitant to even debate this very openly. The demand of the JPC, and secondly, why are you insisting on an apology from Rahul Gandhi? You are also guilty of stalling the house for this demand. Very quickly, please.
Okay, so first of all, let me begin by saying I think this discussion started with the DMK spokesperson placing it very clearly that entire matter, the today's march and stalling the entire proceedings of the parliament was about 2024, about getting the opposition together. This has nothing to do with any matter that they pick up. Every time the parliament is in session, the opposition comes up with some issue or the other, and they have to stall the parliament to not let the parliament function. And that remains the matter with the opposition. Secondly, you ask us why do we need an apology? The apology is for the comments that Rahul Gandhi has made abroad. And I need to ask the DMK and the BRS spokesperson, do they agree with what Rahul Gandhi has said abroad? And are they on board with whatever Congress is doing, embarrassing the entire country abroad? And that is the apology that we are seeking. It is not the BJP that is stalling the parliament. It serves us no purpose to stall the parliament. We have been a government that has shown a brilliant record in the parliament functioning and the work that has been done. And that is why the opposition needs a reason to not let that work get done.
Okay.
And that remains the entire point. The apology is not for anything else but the comments that were made abroad.
Well, I think it's quite clear. It's quite clear that not all opposition parties are very keen on defending Rahul Gandhi on this issue. But let me bring in Karan Verma here also.
Exactly.
That is one thing.
Exactly.
And on my show also, I've had the
diversionary tactic.
No, I've had the TMC before say that we are not in agreement of such statements being made the way they were made overseas. So I think opposition parties are not in favor of really coming to his defense. That's really a Congress issue. But other than that also, whether it's the Adani issue, issues that have come up in the past, Rahul Gandhi's speech, do you feel that the more we get closer to the general elections, actually there are more reasons the parties don't see eye to eye than they do?
Shivani, the hypocrisy of the opposition is unbelievable. I mean, I just heard the Congress spokesperson say on your panel that Adani has done the biggest fraud. Well, if he's done the biggest fraud, why are you giving him projects worth 60,000 crores in your state, Rajasthan? Why are you giving him projects worth 25,000 crores in Chhattisgarh? Why are you doing that? Do you have an answer to that? Such careless statements to be made about our corporates, when the fact of the matter is this Hindenburg report has not said anything new. 70 people, entities, and including the promoters themselves have been investigated by the SEBI. They've also been investigated, Shivani, by the Karnataka Lokayuk. In fact, the Department of Revenue Intelligence, which has much more teeth than this JPC, they pressed charges against Samir Vora, the brother-in-law of Adani, and they were put before an appellate tribunal. The appellate tribunal gave an order in favor of Samir Vora, which was further challenged in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld that order. Truth of the matter is, there is unbelievable amount of judicial scrutiny that Adani has been put to, and it is welcome. The Supreme Court is still looking onto it. Truth is, they have no issue. They have the desire to be a prime minister or cobble up some alliance, but they can't do a single thing for public welfare. They want
Shivani,
this public entity to be taken to smithereens, and they don't understand that the more we discuss this without facts, the Supreme Court is looking on it, we cause an erosion of public wealth in it. This is highly irresponsible, and this is a responsibility for which they've been punished again and again by the people of this country.
Well, the people will decide. I do have to end this. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. We'll see how this battle and this slugfest goes between this, the core case of defamation that the BJP is mounting on Rahul Gandhi and deflection charge by the Congress against the BJP. I thank our guests for joining us, but I also want to go across to our special guest, Karti P. Chidambaram, joining us on the show today, Congress MP from Sivaganga. I want to understand from you, Karti, is the Adani issue going to be the biggest issue that the Congress party is going to raise ahead of the next general elections? The way the Congress is hell-bent on a JPC demand along with other opposition?
Not at all. No general election is fought on one issue. There will be many issues, and this will be an issue which we will raise. This will be an issue about institutional oversight failure. This will be an issue about perhaps crony capitalism. It will be an issue about institutions which are supposed to exercise oversight which have failed. This will be one of the many issues which we will raise. This will not be the only issue in which we will be going to the people in 2024.
I want to understand from you, many other regional leaders don't really want to be seen with the Congress party, and certainly not with the Congress party spearheading the opposition. Recently, Mallikarjun Kharge said that it has to be the Congress that will bring opposition parties together ahead of for the next general elections, and we will lead this bloc. But the likes of Mamata Banerjee, of course, KCR, even the likes of, Arvind Kejriwal at some places don't seem to agree with this. They don't want to be seen with you.
An alliance of one-state parties does not make a national alliance. An alliance of one-state parties adds no electoral value to each other. So in order for an alliance to be viable and an alliance to be credible against the BJP, you need another national party to be the centrality and the fulcrum of that alliance. And only the Congress can be that fulcrum and centrality. The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu and the leader of the DMK understands that, and that is why he on March 1st clearly articulated that regional parties all must come around the Congress party. And whether on questions of leadership, our president has himself said, those are something which we can be discussed later. But the Congress has to be the centrality and has to be the fulcrum for a united opposition against the BJP.
No, but Karti, the likes of Mamata Banerjee, BRS believe the Congress is not beating
I am coming to that. I am coming to that.
They are the ones who are beating the BJP in their states.
I am coming to that. Listen to me. There are certain one-state parties which have certain regional compulsions, local compulsions, which prevent them from sort of cooperating and coming together with the Congress party. I understand their limitations. I understand their compulsions. Their primary interest is always to safeguard their turf in their own state. And sometimes the Congress is the principal opponent for them in their own state. So there is a contradiction for them. So they will not be able to come. I understand the limitation.
No,
but certain parties will be able to overcome the limitation.
Karti,
certain parties won't have that limitation and they'll come together. But if some parties have that limitation and have an hesitation, I understand that.
No, Karti, some of these parties that have that limitation do come together with the Congress party on the national stage. The left is a very good example in Kerala, for example.
Yes.
There is fundamentally...
Some parties will have the maturity to put their... Some parties will have the maturity to put aside the regional concerns and come together for the national cause. And some parties will not have that maturity to do it, and I understand that.
Or you're using maturity as a euphemism for ambition. No, you're using maturity as a euphemism for ambition. Today, some parties have the ambition that the Congress party believes it's only its domain.
I'm telling the ground reality. But no, please listen to me.
Yes.
And I said this in the beginning of my comments. If you allow me to speak. I mean, your audio is, I can't hear you very well. Just allow me to speak.
Okay.
An alliance of one-state parties is an alliance which adds no value to each other. Please understand that. An alliance can only add value if your vote bank is added to their candidate and their vote bank is added to our candidate. And an alliance of one-state parties, and a party which is confined to, say, Telangana, and a party which is, say, confined to, say, Delhi, add no value to each other. They don't have electorates, they don't have vote banks in each of these states.
Then
so
what
unless
about
you
the
have
DMK?
a party which has vote banks throughout the country and has an alliance with them, this has no meaning. These alliances without the Congress has no meaning. They can come together post-election, but pre-election they add no value to each other. So some parties will understand that and will put aside their regional compulsions and come together for the national cause. And some parties might not, and I understand that and I accept that.
Okay. I want to come to the issue of Rahul Gandhi's statements now. The BJP believes Rahul should apologize for what he has said in the UK, especially of all places. They're accusing him of wanting foreign intervention into Indian domestic issues, including the issue that he's been raising ad nauseum, which is that there is no democracy in India. In fact, he said in one of his UK speeches that India has fallen out of democracy fold. It is not something that is going to happen or something that is in danger. It has already happened. He's back in India. Shouldn't Rahul Gandhi make some sort of a statement, if not a full-blown apology as the BJP is asking for? Because this is a matter of India at large. This is not just a matter of the government.
First of all, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has no reason to apologize to anybody. Okay, first and foremost. And secondly, he has not called for foreign intervention into India. He has articulated the state of affairs in India in an international platform. Please understand, every politician, every person in public life, when they travel outside, when they address in international gatherings, will allude to events in their home country. Would you say to the African National Congress before that they should have never spoken about apartheid outside South Africa? Would you have told the Palestinians that they should not speak about the fact that they don't have a homeland in an international forum? Would you tell the Sri Lankan Tamils that they cannot talk about the fact that they are being discriminated in Sri Lanka in an international forum? Would you tell the women in Afghanistan who have been denied the right to education that they cannot speak about it in an international forum? Or would you tell the women in Iran who are fighting against the hijab rule that they can't speak about it? Today there is no such thing as a national issue and an international issue. All issues are international. And whenever a platform is given, anybody in public life will raise it.
No, but Karti, you're seriously comparing India to an apartheid South Africa or a Palestine? Seriously?
Of course. See, it is discrimination. See, apartheid would have been government policy. Here you're targeting opposition. I mean, we rank the lowest in press freedom. I mean, we discriminate against opposition leaders. We prosecute and persecute opposition leaders. There is definitely an erosion of democratic values in India, and I am saying that. And if the government is so confident of the democratic values in India, why are they making much ado about a speech by a member of parliament outside the country in an international forum? They should let it be, and this is quite churlish on the BJP to be asking for apologies. Mr. Rahul Gandhi has no reason to apologize about anything. Okay. This is normal practice. Anybody will use any stage to highlight the issues they are currently dealing with.
Okay, let me frame this a little bit differently. Frankly, whether the BJP is wanting an apology or not is not really an issue for me. My issue is the Congress party, if it's seen as internationalizing, let's say, what is happening in India, as you enumerated, it has happened in the past, other countries have done it, so is the Congress party doing it. Does it really work for you in India? Forget about whether he asked for foreign intervention or not. The fact that Congress leaders are going overseas and complaining about the government of the day instead of fighting it in India, as Rahul Gandhi did during the Bharat Jodo Yatra.
We are fighting it here.
Does that work with the electorate today?
We are fighting it here. We are fighting it every single day. Every one of us fights it in our own way. But if there is a forum given to me, I will use the forum to highlight the issue.
No, but Karti, my point is, why
do you want me not to use a forum given to me?
This is a very different India today.
See, for example,
that does not believe that the West needs to tell us how we need to run our country or what is right for us. Do you think the messaging in itself
Nobody
is wrong?
is suggesting the West to give us advice. Shivani, you must either allow me to answer or I must listen to your monologue. I used to do one of the two.
Go ahead.
It's very difficult for me because your questions have to be specific. What is your specific question? I'll give you a specific answer.
Can I frame it?
What is your specific question?
Yes, my question is, even the very messaging of a Congress leader going overseas and asking the West to intervene or take notice because of what's happening in India. Is that a message that works with the Indian electorate or actually makes the Congress party look bad?
Whether it works with the Indian electorate or not will be known during the elections. So why are you prejudging us? We will go to the electorate with a wholesome agenda and the electorate will either accept our agenda or reject our agenda. This is not the only message we are going to take to the people. The fact that democratic values, democratic institutions are collapsing in India is a fact. We will highlight that in every forum we get. So, and if people don't like our messaging, if people don't agree with us, they will not support us. If they agree with us, they will support us. Simple as that. So, why do you want to split hairs about it today?
Okay. My final question to you, as we build up to the entire 2024 general elections, where do you see the Congress party's campaign against what seems to be a very strong Narendra Modi-led government, and also the plans to bring the opposition together? Rahul Gandhi, for example, had alluded to it that we have plans, he's not going to reveal it. But are they materializing because time is running out?
No, I lost your question. I couldn't hear half of it. So please tell, what is your specific question?
Can I try one more time? I'm saying, how do you look at the battle for the 2024 elections? 1 year to go. How do you think this is shaping up for you as a Congress MP and for the opposition at large?
There is time. There are state elections coming up. They will also set the tone for the elections next year, and then they'll also allow regional parties, one state parties, to make up their mind on which side of the aisle they want to stand, and then formations will happen, and then the people of India will decide whether they want to continue with this muscular nationalistic Hindutva government, or with a liberal, egalitarian government for all sections of society. People will make that choice next year.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. Karti Chidambaram, thanks a lot for your time. Always a pleasure to speak to you. The battle for 2024 certainly building up, and it's going to be a heated one. I'm moving on to the other big focus on PlainSpeak today. A lot of people have been complaining about prolonged cough and bad throats, a viral infection that is leaving people breathless for weeks. Well, this is the rise of H3N2 virus, a non-human influenza virus that normally circulates in pigs and has infected humans. Major symptoms include fever, respiratory symptoms such as cough, runny nose. Possibly other symptoms include body ache, nausea, vomiting and diarrhea. So in other ways, very much a reminder of COVID. In 1968, H3N2 caused the flu pandemic that led to the death of around 1 million people globally. So it can be dangerous. It is also highly contagious and all patients should isolate themselves. Experts feel there could be two reasons why this flu attack is more extreme than usual. One, for the last few years, people have been habitual to masking and they are no longer protected now. The second is that many people's immune systems have suffered post-COVID bouts. Pollution is also being cited as another reason why the infection is taking longer to heal. In some states, the central government has expressed concern over rising COVID-19 positivity and H3N2 influenza cases. Maharashtra has recorded a spike in COVID-19 cases and deaths along with other states. Puducherry has become the first of the Indian states or UTs to now shut all schools for 10 days because of the H3N2 cases. What is this virus exactly? It's a subtype of influenza A virus. It is spreading fast in the country. Over 350 cases have been recorded in Maharashtra, for example, recently. It causes high fever that lasts up to 5 days, might cause prolonged cough and cold for up to 3 weeks. And this is particularly a symptom that people have been talking about. Severe cases may vary from person to person, but 3 people have died so far in India because of this virus. Take a look at some key differences or similarities between COVID and this. So COVID-19, of course, is caused by SARS-CoV-2. H3N2 virus is a subtype of influenza A. COVID-19 causes fever, sore throat, cough, body aches, runny nose. This virus also causes fever, cough, sore throat, headache, fatigue, chills, very similar to COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 has an incubation period of 2 to 14 days. H3N2, though, has a shorter incubation period of 1 to 4 days. The centre has shot off a warning to states over this spread. They have said, and I quote, closely monitor the trend of SARI and SARS-CoV-2, ensure adequate stocks of drugs, medical oxygen, ensure adequate stock of medical equipment. They've also asked states to ensure that people are vaccinated against influenza and are again vaccinated against COVID as well, and that states need to remain vigilant and raise awareness on hand hygiene especially. So the big question we're delving into with our guests joining us in just a bit is, with this virus now spreading across the country, should India be worried and is it time to bring in some restrictions? Dr. Ankita Baidia, Infectious Diseases Specialist, Manipal Hospital, and Dr. Rajiva Gupta, Internal Medicine Senior Consultant, CK Birla Hospital, is joining us. Dr. Gupta, let me begin with you. Are there any recent examples of such strong viral infections in Indian history, in the Indian subcontinent? Why is it that this year, for example, I think I suffered from this in December. So I think this has been going on for a few months and it's going in phases in different cities. Why is it so strong this time around?
Yes, it's not possible to say, and there is no obvious reason which is discernible as to why there is a spike or sudden rise in these cases. Although they always happen during this period in the winter and usually start somewhere in late November and they continue till March or April. But probably the virus which is circulating now, the H3N2, is more contagious by means of changing its antigenic structure, or what we call as a mutation. So because of its high contagion, it is spreading very fast, and a lot of people are affected at the same time. That is one reason. The second reason is that the basic preventive measures which people were adhering to in the past, in form of usage of masks, social distancing, and hand hygiene, etc. So that complacency has started creeping in. Thirdly, the vaccination rate is extremely low.
You mean
people maybe have got vaccinated against COVID
or for influenza?
COVID, but for influenza. So many people, they got, but it is very evident, and it has been there in the media as well, that people got the first and second dose of COVID. However, the uptake of the booster dose of COVID was extremely low.
Yes.
As far as influenza vaccine is concerned, the awareness is low, and the acceptance of people is also low, even if, as doctors, we suggest them that you get the flu shot. So people think that, yes, it's a self-limiting illness, mild illness, what is the need of getting a vaccination done?
Yeah. No,
so
actually,
all these three
Dr. Gupta, I'll just try and correct some. There's a bit of an audio issue with you, but actually I am one of those people who's not very keen in getting an influenza shot. Also because if you get it, then you're possibly going to have to need it, Dr. Baidia, every year, right? So is there no solution but to get an influenza shot?
But that's what the recommendation is.
So actually, yes, Shivani, what we need to see here, that influenza shot, yes, we need to get the annual vaccination done every year in the month of August. I say precisely August every year. The current circulating strain is as such by WHO is recommended that it's to be as such given in the vaccine, and every year it is recommended to be taken. Now, who should definitely take the influenza vaccine? So I want to highlight people who have comorbid illness, people who are elderly, people who had recovered from a bad lung disease. I will add, nowadays, when all these guidelines were made, like before COVID, so COVID infection also had a severe damage to the lungs, especially we had seen in the second wave. So people who had severe COVID infection and a bad lung reserve should also take the influenza shot. People who are healthcare worker, frontline worker, they should take. Now, what advantage this flu vaccine, even if a healthy person who is going to take this flu shot, what advantage it is actually going to give you? So supposedly I myself, though I'm a healthcare worker, I regularly take it every year, but I myself, if I take the vaccine, what benefit is there? I will not get infected or not have severe symptom, not have a frank viral replication in my throat if I'm vaccinated with the current strain, and I will not give it to my family members also. So if a good herd immunity is there, so annual vaccination, this is why we are annual vaccination. This is the concept of it, that a good amount of at least people who are at risk, they should take the vaccine, and the advantage of a healthy adult also getting the vaccination, that the family also get a lesser chance of getting exposed to this virus.
Okay, but now, can I just ask you, this is a culture, Doctor, this is a culture we've seen in a lot of Western countries, but in India, taking an influenza shot is not considered to be absolutely important every year. So are we moving in that direction? Is there no other way that we can boost our immune systems? Yes, Dr. Gupta.
Yeah, so world over, by all the professional bodies and all the authorities, an annual flu shot beyond the age of 6 months is recommended. And it not only it may prevent infection, even if it doesn't prevent infection, it attenuates or decreases the intensity of the infection, as well as decreases rates of hospitalization. So as it was mentioned earlier also, that people who are healthy, they should also take vaccine, because the overall transmission of the infection would certainly decrease. So from a public health point of view, despite the fact that it is important, so despite the fact that it may be a mild illness in majority of the patients, still the person has to remain restricted at home. The professional work gets upset. The overall the quality of life also subsequent to the infection gets deteriorated by means of fatigue, and sometimes lingering complications like persistent cough is there. So overall, the benefits of the vaccination far outweigh any other concern which may
but
be
can I ask you, Mr. Gupta, what I was trying to understand from you earlier is, obviously flus have existed all the time. And of course, December or change of season is considered flu season in India as well. But we've never had a problem which has been this bad across the country of such long duration coughs and congestions, etc. So, do you believe this is just like a mutation that has happened in the virus alone, or are we compromised because we've had COVID bouts and therefore we are, more subjected to these seasonal flus as well? What is going on? I mean, why has this suddenly become a thing in India?
Probably because after the emergence of after COVID, everybody got sensitized with the respiratory illnesses.
Yeah.
Now since COVID was on the decline till very recently, suddenly this spurt of cases of respiratory or acute respiratory upper respiratory tract illness or an influenza-like illness started appearing. So those things, those memories start coming back, and once we hear that 1 or 2 deaths have been reported somewhere, so that also creates a scare. But the thing is that the attitudinal change should be there in terms of adoption of what we call a COVID appropriate behavior, or for any respiratory illness, usage of vaccine, usage of masks, hand washing, etc. That is important.
Okay.
So, and this sensitization has not been there in our country. That probably lies, the responsibility lies with the healthcare community, the doctors community, so that we should tell the patient that this is an advantage, and more people will start taking the vaccine.
Okay. Dr. Baidya, I want to give you a word also on what you would recommend people should or should not do, and what should they do if they feel they're catching on to a flu or a virus like this?
So, Shivani, we need to understand that this virus is also spreading through a droplet infection. So what you all can do, as we have learned in the COVID era, that we need to wear a mask with same way we can be protected from flu also, and also the circulating strain of COVID, proper hand hygiene, and yes, vaccination. So all these three is important. If you are having any symptom of influenza-like illness, so just in the initial phase only, because for the flu we see that the incubation period is very short. It is around 1 to 2 days. So usually if a family member catches infection, the other family member will start showing the symptoms in next 1 to 2 days. So as soon as you feel that there is scratchy throat or nasal congestion, start at least wearing a surgical mask. That simple 3-layered mask will help you that your family member might not get affected if the virus still not got transmitted to them. Practicing hand hygiene. So these basic precautions, as we were protecting ourselves from COVID, the same will help in the influenza pandemic also. I'd like to add one point, Shivani, that you asked about why we are seeing so much N3 and H3N2 cases this year. So one thing that what we had seen in last 2 years, people were wearing masks. So the usual circulating influenza antibodies, influenza infection, which also transmit through this route only, was less. The herd immunity was less. People were not vaccinated as such. Another thing, the damage done by COVID itself as a viral infection to our lungs has also triggered a bad influenza and a prolonged illness because of influenza virus itself, which is actually influenza A can be associated with mild, moderate to severe influenza infection. As such, a vaccine is always recommended. As Dr. Gupta has also mentioned, above 6 months of age. And if we just weigh the benefit out with the risk of getting vaccinated or the cost of vaccine, it is much more if you get yourself vaccinated. The benefits are much more when you get yourself vaccinated.
But I think, and I want both of you to take 30 seconds to talk about this. How do we really recover from what COVID and similar viruses have done to our immune system? Because ultimately boosting our immunity is going to be very important than relying on flus and on shots and vaccines all the time. So I want to talk to you, Dr. Baidya, do you want to take 30 seconds on what you think people should do to boost their immunity to begin with?
So quickly, Shivani, immunity cannot be built in a day. So you have to have a routine, good lifestyle, including a good diet, a daily routine of exercise, and a good hydration, taking adequate amount of water, adequate amount of nutrients. You should definitely go and check your vitamin D levels. This is important immunomodulator when it comes to immunity. Vitamin C rich food, including a vitamin C rich food in your diet, also helps to strengthen your immunity. So daily basic steps of working towards immunity helps to maintain it well, doing yoga and everything we know since ages, but how much are we practicing? That's the question. So this few steps that I have mentioned that has to be followed if you want to build up your immunity gradually over days.
Dr. Gupta?
Yeah, so the immunity, we use this word so frequently, and anywhere, any illness or any situation, we always say that yes, immunity is the first thing. And in fact, any infection, it happens only because of an interaction between the virus or the bacteria and the host response or the immunity. Now, as we mentioned, that the fundamentals remain the same. Healthier lifestyle, which means regular exercise, at healthy diet, which should include also balanced diet, healthy and balanced diet, which should appropriate amount of carbohydrates, proteins, dairy products, and fiber, etc. And thirdly, freedom from mental stress, or at least mitigation of mental stress to whatever extent is possible. Because this aspect is often neglected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not
absolutely.
even, it is always under.
Yeah, I mean,
these
stress is,
three
of
things.
course, an addition. Not to forget, of course, the pollution that we're living in. It is not really helping our immunity, certainly not our respiratory systems. But I have run out of time. I do thank both of our doctors for joining us. We will try and bring more information on this and what we need to do as this progresses. But I have to slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get you more on a big move by the RBI that is pushing for rupee at a global stage. More on that in just a bit.
Conflict would move beyond the contours of Ukraine and Russia and would have a spillover effect either on the seas or in the land area of other European countries, and it would be an apocalypse waiting to happen, which will be beyond the control of United States. So I think it's better they stop it right now, what is happening. Otherwise, 2023 will be a very bad affair when it comes to conflicts of the world.
A United States Reaper drone and 2 Russian Su-27 aircraft were flying in international waters over the Black Sea when, according to the United States military, one of the Russian jets flew in front of and dumped fuel on the unmanned drone. Now, the aircraft then reportedly hit the propeller of the drone, prompting U.S. forces to bring down the MQ-9 drone down in international waters, that is the Black Sea, remember. Now, the collision took place shortly after 7 a.m. Central European time on Tuesday, which is roughly 11:30 a.m. India time. Now, the incident marks the first time that Russian and U.S. military aircraft have come into direct physical contact since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine just over a year ago, and is likely to increase tensions between the two nations.
What we saw again were fighter aircraft dumping fuel in front of this UAV, and then getting so close to the aircraft that it actually damaged the propeller on the MQ-9. We assess that it likely caused some damage to the Russian aircraft as well. The Russian aircraft did land. I'm not going to go into where they landed. But again, it's just demonstrative of very unprofessional, unsafe airmanship on the part of these pilots. Because of the damage, we were in a position to have to essentially crash it into the Black Sea. To my knowledge, at this point in time, the Russians have not recovered that aircraft.
About this aerial unmanned vehicle, this drone can carry 1,700 kilos of explosives. This drone can carry a few bombs. You see that what will be reaction of United States if you see such Russian drone very close, for example, to San Francisco or New York? What will be reaction of United States? For me, it's clear. We don't want any confrontation between the United States and Russian Federation. We are in favor of pragmatic relations for the sake, for the interest of the people of the United States and Russian Federation.
The President was briefed by the National Security Advisor about this incident earlier this morning. It is not uncommon, Amr, for there to be intercepts by Russian aircraft of U.S. aircraft over the Black Sea. So this is not an uncommon occurrence. And there have been even in just in recent weeks, there have been other intercepts. But this one obviously is noteworthy because of how unsafe and unprofessional it was, indeed reckless that it was, and causing the downing of one of our aircraft. So it's unique in that regard.
We have engaged at high levels with our allies and partners in the first instance to brief them on this incident and to let them know what we know just about as soon as we were learning of the details. We are engaging directly with the Russians, again, at senior levels, to convey our strong objections to this unsafe, unprofessional intercept, which caused the downing of the unmanned U.S. aircraft. As to the particulars, we are summoning the Russian ambassador to the department where we will convey this message. In Moscow, meanwhile, Ambassador Tracy has conveyed a strong message to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
U.S. surveillance drone was brought down by 2 Russian Sukhoi 27 jets. The U.S. says that the surveillance aircraft, an MQ-9 Reaper as it was called, a large aircraft with sophisticated systems on board. It has a 20-meter wingspan, really a very complex system of surveillance. But this was brought down by the Russian jets as it was operating in international airspace and was operating, as the U.S. says, quite legitimately. This was not exactly shot down, but it was brought down by U.S. accounts. The 2 Russian aircraft dumped fuel over the drone, leading the aircraft to crash into the waters below over the Black Sea. This now is a very serious confrontation. It's a confrontation very directly now between systems from the U.S. and Russia. This is quite the first direct clash that we've had between the two.
We are crossing over to CNN News 18's Foreign Affairs correspondent Abhishek Jha to get more on this. Abhishek, how could we likely see this matter escalate between the two nations?
So far it looks like the situation is pretty much under control because USA had acknowledged the fact that Russian planes were behind the drowning of US MQ-9 and manned aerial surveillance aircraft. At the same time, they have said that this reckless and unprofessional move was being raised with the Russian authorities. Senior officials of USA will engage with the Russian side to know their side of the story. So,
welcome back. The Reserve Bank of India has announced a big decision by allowing trade settlements between India and other countries in rupees now. In its latest circular, the RBI mentioned that the move is being taken to promote the growth of global trade with the emphasis on exports from India and to support the increasing interest of the global trading community in the Indian rupee. This move is expected to go a long way in promoting the rupee as a currency for trade settlement. The RBI has so far granted approval for opening of 60 special rupee Vostro accounts in domestic and foreign banks in 18 countries. Last year, the RBI came out with a mechanism to allow overseas trade in rupee to facilitate import of cheaper oil from Russia following sanctions imposed by the West. Top Russian banks are amongst the first to be granted approval by the RBI for Vostro accounts. Let's break down things a little bit more. Let's talk about the existing payment system, which is used by Indian exporters and importers. So, import and export transactions happen in foreign currency. Indian companies mostly get paid or receive money in US dollars. The transactions also take place in either pounds, yen or euros. Indian exporters have to then convert the received payments to rupees for their needs. Now, the RBI has laid out guidelines in the circular on the SRVA model. Firstly, SRVA means Special Rupee Vostro Account. The bank of the importer or exporter has to open a special rupee Vostro account. Importer or exporter's bank, which is situated on foreign land, may approach authorized dealers in India. The authorized dealer bank will then approach RBI for approval, and after RBI's approval, special Vostro account of importer or exporter bank will be opened. To simplify it further, here are the details on a Vostro account. This account is used for international banking services. The account is held by domestic banks for foreign banks. Transactions take place in domestic banks' currency, that is, in this case, will be rupees. The account acts as an intermediary between the importer and the exporter. It helps domestic banks get a wider access to foreign financial markets, and international clients can be served by the banks without being physically present there. So which countries has the RBI granted an approval for a Vostro account or SRVA? These countries include Russia, Germany, Mauritius, Singapore, Malaysia, Myanmar, Israel, Sri Lanka. That's a total of more than 8 countries, but some global trade partners, some are global trade partners, some are in India's vicinity. Meanwhile, there are countries like Bangladesh and Mauritius that have shown interest in the SVRA model. The move is expected to help the Indian currency over a period of time. Rupee trade will reduce pressure on India's forex reserves first. This will also help India protect its economic interests which are linked to forex reserves. The SRVA model will enable a wider acceptance of the rupee, which is what the RBI is going for. Apart from this, there are other benefits of trading in your local currency. It will reduce currency conversion cost and thus the price of imported goods is likely to reduce. And small traders will also be able to now export or import with other countries in Indian rupee. But will this move help arrest the fall of the Indian rupee? According to the current scenario, global currencies are depreciating and hitting all-time lows. The RBI is trying to use India's forex to control the rupee fall. Despite those attempts, though, the Indian rupee has hit a new low. As of today, the rupee is over 82 rupees against a US dollar. Eventually, though, this is a long-term game to shake off the dependency on the US currency and make the Indian rupee acceptable internationally as a trading currency, which ultimately benefits Indian traders. Moving on, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, is the largest ship ever built in India's maritime history. CNN News 18's Vinay Deshpande is bringing you an exclusive report.
On board INS Vikrant, welcome to this aircraft carrier which can carry almost 30 aircrafts at a time. Today, let's take a look at how this magnificent aircraft carrier looks.
Built at the Cochin Shipyard Limited, INS Vikrant is a tribute to India's first aircraft carrier. The homegrown aircraft carrier is the largest warship to be built in India and was commissioned into the Navy last year.
The place we are standing right now is the ski jump, and the area you can see behind is a flight deck. So all the flight operations on board which happen on this aircraft carrier are taken here, take place here, and this is the edge from where the aircraft takes its leap and it takes off. 30 is a number which the aircraft carrier can carry, but that depends upon the different missions and the figure is not fixed. So yes, it has a complement and it can carry well number of helicopters and the fighters.
INS Vikrant is a huge leap towards strengthening India's position as an economic superpower. The role of a stronger navy is embedded in the Atmanirbharta story.
The second aircraft carrier of India, INS Vikrant, has strengthened Indian Navy's position as one of the topmost navies in the global arena. This is a floating city, as you can see. Thousands of sailors and officers, at least 1,500 of them, can sail on board this vessel at any given time. Clearly, this is a force multiplier for the Indian Navy. Can you tell us the impact INS Vikrant will have in India's naval prowess?
INS Vikrant, of course, is a force multiplier, as you said. Yes, it's true. It's a floating airfield at sea, and it increases Indian Navy's air arms reach to the places where it was not before.
Since her commissioning in September last year, INS Vikrant has focused on maintaining freedom of navigation in the Indo-Pacific region. The aim is to be combat ready in a region where the threats are dynamic.
As of now, you can see currently on this flight deck we have 2 different types of fighters. That is the MiG, which is the multi-engine deck-based aircraft, which is Russian-made, and the LCA, which is indigenously made aircraft by HAL, and it has also been proven on this aircraft carrier. Since our commissioning, it has been only 5 months, but we are able to prove the landing of both the aircrafts on the carrier. So it takes great pride, and we also it feels good about ourselves and the country that we are able to produce an aircraft carrier which is made in India.
On board a completely indigenously built aircraft carrier is indigenously built LCA Tejas. Clearly, there are only 6 countries across the world which can produce aircraft carriers. India has become one of them, clearly making it one of the forces to reckon with. With video journalist Sumangal Tambe, Vinaya Deshpande from onboard INS Vikrant.
And finally, I leave you with Virat Kohli shaking a leg with a popular Norwegian dance group in Mumbai. Thanks a lot for watching.
You're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. It was day 3 of the budget session. Wash out as the BJP and the opposition have drawn the battle line.